Hello. So it's time to do the pumpkin painting tutorial. I know this is only a pumpkin in the strictest sense, but we're going to kind of paint it like one. I just want to show some of the materials. So I have pumpkin, inexpensive paintbrushes. I believe I got these from Walmart. They're also available from the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and possibly Dollarama. We won't be needing all these, but this is the degree of brushes that you will require.
The heads of the brushes are not visible right now. There you go.
You may want a reasonable sized flat brush, a slightly larger flat brush, and potentially, oops, not that one. Just pulled the top off that.
That's rip his head off.
Yeah, that's why cheap brushes are cheap. And possibly a round brush for detail if you need it. You will also require paint. This paint is fine. This paint is fine. This paint is also good. This one is from Amazon. Inexpensive. I believe these are labeled artists acrylic paints. Actually pretty good value, this kind. This is pretty good stuff if you're looking to get into more painting.
So that's the professional stuff.
Liquitex Professional. What I would not get is Liquitex Basic. It is super overpriced and honestly not quite as good a paint as these, which you can get for stupid cheap.
The Walmart.
Dollar store paints. The Professional, however, is very good. The heavy body is really, really good. You will also require paper towels. I like to have 2 paper towels when I paint. One will be used to take most of the water out of your brush when you wash your brushes. One will be used to remove paint and will stay largely dry. I will show you that when the time comes. The other thing you may want, brush washing station. This is one of our brush cups. It has some neat features. It has space to store your brush on top, which is handy because this is bad. Never do that.
Stop looking at me.
The other feature it has that you probably can't see on camera is a ridged up bottom. Those help agitate the water and will clean your brush better. You can replace that with any sort of short kind of a can, like the kind that tuna comes in with a bunch of holes punched in it. That actually makes a really good brush agitator. Just make sure that you punch the holes downward, and you'll set the can in so that the holes and the bottom of the can are at the top. They're up, and the open section of the can is down. So think, I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Holes punched inward, body of the can extends down, and it sets inside your container of liquid. That is an excellent device for keeping your brushes clean. It is not necessary, but it is fantastic. Now, this painting is going to be super straightforward. Depending on the paint that you use, you may or may not have to mix some paint. One downside with these paints is if they sit long enough, sometimes they don't, the nozzles get clogged. And that's okay. It's still okay paint. I'm going to paint this guy largely orange because it is a pumpkin.
That makes sense.
I will show you the primary difference in what you are paying for with the more expensive paints. So I'm just going to mix up an orange. Red and yellow makes orange. Don't have to mix all your paint together and make a huge pile of orange. You can mix paint probably pretty close to the same color in multiple batches if you try. You may not think you can, but I'll bet you can. So I am going to paint this guy. Now I'm not real concerned about getting a nice even paint. I'm really just scrubbing away. This initial base coat step may take a couple of coats, depending on the paint that you are using. Just as a demonstration, this paint is the inexpensive stuff from the dollar store. This is the relatively expensive, and these are kind of expensive. Artists' grade paints. Now the color is slightly different, but mostly the coverage is quite different. The pigmentation is significantly greater in the artist paints, so you will get more color out of less paint if you use the good stuff.
That'll work. Okay.
Also, a thing I nearly forgot to mention that some people may not recognize is all of these acrylic paints are completely intermixable. You can mix the cheap stuff with the good stuff if you want to. It's fine. So if you want to buy yourself, you know, a reasonable, simple palette of the good artist paints and some weirder colors as needed with the cheap stuff, that works fine. But we are going to get this guy covered, and then we will move on to the next step. I don't know. And we are back. This now has 2 coats, top and bottom, as do my fingers. That's the thing that will happen. Acrylic paint is safe on the skin. It just rubs off. Don't get it on your clothes. It will not just rub off. We are mostly dry. Good enough to continue. So this is the part of the painting process where you can get as creative as you want. I'm going to be doing some of the local color things. I'm just going to keep it simple and do a little bit of the stem. That's way more black than I needed. That's okay. And this is going to be a mix of black and yellow. Make like a dull green. And I'm just using the same big old fat brush I've been using. You can go smaller if you want. Whatever you're comfortable with. You can get a really good amount of control out of a bigger brush. A little practice. One thing to keep in mind is acrylic paint does dry fairly quickly, so it does make sense to wash your brush pretty often, even if you're still working with the same color. Because if the paint dries in your brush, it's gonna stay there, and it's very difficult to remove. Your brushes will last for a good long time, even these little cheapy ones, if you keep the paint from drying in there. Get this inside area. I don't think you can see that well, but it looks like this is only going to take one coat. I'm just going to soften these edges just a little bit.
We need soften the edges.
Just pulling a little bit of paint around things. None of this is painted particularly neatly yet, because you don't need to. I think for this guy, I am going to do also, because he's got kind of a mouth area, some features. I'm gonna add a little bit more red tone in here. Can kind of make a hybrid of a pumpkin and a person's face skull type thing, I think. And again, not too worried about being neat. You can be as neat as you want, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to make this reasonably soft transitions from one color to the next. That maybe a little bit redder, a little bit more buildup. Let's get down in that eye socket too. Give him a nice, gross, bloody eye socket area. Do the same with this eye. You paint any colors that you want. Just lightly dabbing with the red. And I think I would give you all a little preview of the next step, or one of the future steps. Glimpse into the future. I'm going to paint these teeth kind of yellow. Now I can be very careful and paint in there, but I don't have to, because if I just take most of the paint off my brush and drag it across the high spots, so you just skip across the high spots and I get nice teeth just by dry brushing. It's not too critical. When it comes to monsters, the messier the better sometimes. But you can be as controlled as you feel you need to be for your particular pumpkin or monster or whatever. It really is all about you doing you. And I like that. I like the way that looks. I'm going to come in here to brighten this eye the same way. Can you still see the eye?
Yeah.
If you actually show you another quick and dirty chibi thing. If you use a bigger brush than what you need, if you load one side of it, one corner with paint, keep the other dry, you can put paint down then just flip the brush and you can blend. Very handy for paint that likes to dry real fast. So this is going to be just more of the same, adding layers and paint.
Recording.
Okay, we are back. Now I have painted in the detail such as it is. You can go as far as you want with that step. But now I'm going to move on to the wash. This is where all of your details are really going to come out. Can you see the, you can, okay. So I'm adding quite a bit of water to my palette and just a little bit of black. Black is a good color to use for this, but you can use any color for a wash. Usually dark colors are preferred. I want to see if I can give you an idea of the right viscosity of paint. This is still a little too thick. If you can start to pull through and it kind of takes a while to come back, you can see that okay?
Yeah.
That's probably about where you want to be. I'm also going to show you, can we see the butt end of the pumpkin pretty well? So you want it to run off a little bit, but not be anywhere. So you want it a little thicker than that, but a little thinner than that.
Okay.
What we're going to do is we're going to take the paint and we're going to put it on, and then we are going to remove it just by blotting and rubbing, and it should stay in your detail areas. If you find an inconspicuous spot to test, this is the before.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is really going to be the
Really slopping it on.
really slopping it on. Get it down in all the spots. Maybe don't use your favorite brush for this, because you're kind of scrubbing in with it, and that can be a little rough on the bristles and things. If you're working over a larger area, you can do this in stages. You don't have to do the whole thing, because you're going to want to get this paint off before it really starts to dry. You can dampen your paper towel a little to help you remove paint if it's not removing enough. The worst possible thing that can happen is you have to do your painting of the bright colors over again a little, and you can move back and forth between these stages any way you want. Just get the water, or get most of the paint out of my brush really quick, and get most of the, I'm leaving water in the bristles on the paintbrush, because that will keep the paint from drying in it until I've got a chance to wash it properly. So as you can see, if you model it with the paper towel by dabbing, you get a slightly different effect than if you sort of damp the paper towel and scrub a little bit. That'll remove more. So you can decide how much or how little of this wash you want to have happen for your particular piece. I think I'm going to bring it off the high spots pretty good. Get it pretty good and clean in the brightest spots. Kind of feel like this is an old 80s rubber toy, you know. I'm gonna leave some brighter stuff. Okay. So I am just going to be doing that all around my pumpkin. This sort of thing is going to happen on the back. When it hasn't fully dried, you can actually scrub it right off. And that will work just fine. Okay, so now we have the wash done. Still in its ugly duckling phase, but it's getting there. So the last stage is dry brushing, which you kind of already saw on the teeth, but this is just going to be a slightly more advanced version, or slightly more particular version. So you're going to take some paint. The way I like to do it is load the brush a little bit, a reasonable amount of paint, and then most of that comes off on your palette. Another good place is you can dry brush off on your hand a little, and that will, is that on camera good? Okay. That will give you a better idea of how much is on the brush. I'm just going to test this in a small area. Now, because this is a yellow dry brush, it's going to take a minute to build up because it's a little transparent. But you can see this is just picking out the highlight areas. Let's try it over here where we've got some stuff to highlight. And you can just brush back and forth kind of gently, and it'll pick up those high spots. So I'm just going to come through here.
Actually, no, stop for a second.
Okay. And we're just going to
I should get my stick.
grab those highlights. Keep your brush nice and dry. Now, if you're doing this for a very extended period of time, you may have to pause and wash your brush.
Wash your hand.
Come back. You don't have to wash your hand. You can just go, and I'm just going to go all over everything because the yellow will look good on that stem too. Sometimes it's easier if there are areas that you don't want the dry brush to hit to mask those areas. You can use a little bit of tape or blue tack or
What do you mean mask?
cover it so the paint won't get on it. Because it's kind of hard to avoid areas sometimes because this is just sort of smacking paint around on the thing. You can go in one direction, you can change directions. They'll give you slightly different effects, but it's really not that, it's not complicated. You're just layering on a little bit of paint just on the highest areas.
Do some happy little layers.
Just some happy little layers. And it'll also give you a really nice little breakup paint color. So you don't have like boring areas of just flat color. Now, unfortunately, if you go too hard with dry brushing, you get a really harsh area. It's very difficult to get that back. So you're going to want to build this up slowly. You can work back and forth with different colors, but it's much easier to work slow, build up to the color you want. Always remember when you reload your brush, tap it out, make sure you have an idea of how much paint you have on the brush. If you don't want to do it on your hand, you can obviously feel free to use a little bit of paper towel. That does the same thing, but you can see I don't have as much control with the paper towel. A little heavier there. And this paint will just wash right off your skin, and it's not harmful. I wouldn't recommend this with oil paints, but acrylics are okay. You know, just look him over, give him a little looky-loo. I think you could use a little bit more brightening here. Bring out above this eye a little bit more. And I think we've got a pretty cool evil pumpkin boy.
Can you move your thumb down? Thank you.